Siddur Snippet series is generously sponsored by the Saka family and sponsored as well by Ayala and Avram Foreman, and we are up to the 12th bracha of the Amida. But the truth is, while we refer to it as the 12th bracha, in many ways it's 11a or 11b. It was inserted, it was added only later. We colloquially refer to the Shmona Esrei as Shmona Esrei, which means 18. There are 18 brachas, but the truth is, we know there are 19. If we wanted to be more accurate, we would call the Amida, the bracha that we say while we are standing. This bracha was added later. The original 18 were instituted by Anshe Knesset Gedola, and as we've discussed, they were instituted because they represent man's universal needs across all time and across all space, wherever and whenever we live. These 13 brachas in the middle, these needs, these requests remain the foundation. They are the fundamental structure of what is most important, beginning from da'as, the need for knowledge and health and prosperity and justice and ingathering of the exiles, Yerushalayim, redemption, and so on. These are man's universal needs. 500 years later, after Anshe Knesset Gedola, Shmuel HaKatan, whom we'll discuss more about momentarily, added and authored this additional bracha, the bracha of V'lamashinim, known as the Birchas Haminim. This bracha was added later. The Shibbolei HaLeket, the great Rishonim, has been describing the origin of each of the brachas of the Amida of Shemona Esrei and their historical antecedent, the historical precedent. So what is the historical precedent of this bracha, particularly if it was not part of the original Shemona Esrei of Anshe Knesset Gedola? So the Shibbolei HaLeket writes that when the Yam Suf split, and when the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, drowned in it, the Malachim saw that Hashem runs the world, and even our enemies, and even those who seek our demise, even those who seek to destroy us and erase us and exterminate us, even those who don't only oppose us physically, but want to purge our ideology, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu metes out justice. And therefore, when the Malachim witnessed and watched the Egyptians drown in the sea, they declared, Baruch Ata Hashem, they made the bracha, who breaks enemies and humbles rebellious sinners, Shover Oivim, Machnia, Zaydim, that there is an answer for them all. And later, that historical precedent, that text, which was lost, Rabbi Gamliel, who was the one who recruited Shmuel HaKatan to write V'lamashinim, this bracha, knew there was a historical precedent, knew that the Malachim once declared that Hashem metes out justice and everyone will get what's coming to them. But the exact words and the language he didn't feel he could author, and so he recruited Shmuel HaKatan to do it. And as I said, we'll talk more about why Shmuel HaKatan. This bracha begins with a vav achibur. Even though we were all taught you don't begin a sentence with the word and, v'lamashinim, and to the mashinim let there be no hope. But the reason the vav is it's an additional bracha, and it's a continuation of Hashiva Shavteinu Kavarishona, this longing we have for the restoration of justice, of truth, of honesty, of integrity, of fairness between each other and for Klal Yisrael. It continues, v'lamashinim, and in that spirit, that there's an injustice, in that vacuum, in the absence of a Sanhedrin, that void, that vacuum is filled with minim, with malshinim, with those wicked individuals, the Tzdukim, the Sadducees, and others, who are seeking to undermine, seeking to erase, seeking to confront our very ideology, our hashkafa of who we are. The Rambam explains in Hilchos Tefillah, the beginning of Perek Beis, the historical background for what precipitated this bracha. Again, for 500 years, the Amida Shmona Esrei was that, Shmona Esrei 18 brachos, and it covered all of universal needs. And 500 years later, something was happening in the world that Gamliel felt he needed to recruit, he needed to appoint someone. Shmuel HaKatan was that someone to tackle a new problem, a new need, one that was indeed very threatening and very dangerous. Writes the Rambam, Bimei Rabbi Gamliel, in the days of Rabbi Gamliel. Where was Rabbi Gamliel? The Rambam doesn't write it. In Yavna. Why Yavna? Because after the Churban Ma'asheni, the Sanhedrin was in Yavna. And Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. He was the leader at the time. Bimei Rabbi Gamliel, Rabu Api Korsim B'Yisrael, Vayumitzerim L'Yisrael Mesisanos Lashuv Me'achorei Hashem. The number of heretics, the number of deniers, the numbers of those who corrupted and distorted our Torah Kadosha, they increased, they proliferated, and they threatened, they tried to seduce and tempt us to leave and abandon our ways. They tried to entice us to turn away from Hashem. We're suffering again, mass assimilation, an attempt to be Jew-ish and not Jews with Torah's Hashem. Listen to the lashon of the Rambam. What motivated Rabbi Gamliel to edit or add an addendum to what Anshe Knesset HaGedola, with their divine insight, had already authored? Because Rabbi Gamliel felt more than Da'as and Rifa'enu and Baruch Aleinu, more than all the needs for knowledge and health and prosperity, the bigger threat than our own physical well-being was a threat to our very neshamas. So he and his Beis Din stood up and they instituted a new bracha, la'abed ha'apikorsim, to eliminate and remove and stop the threat and the danger of the heretics and those who are promoting assimilation and the disappearance of our Masorah, chas v'shalom. And they added it and instituted it to be part of our davening, so that everybody would know it. It would be arranged in the mouths of all. Nimtzu kol habrachos b'tfilat sha'asei brachos. So in truth, concludes the Rambam, doing the math for us, 18 plus 1 is 19. Today, from then on, there are 19 brachas. What precipitated this bracha, and this essentially very courageous and brave, and perhaps at its time, somewhat controversial decision of Rabbi Gamliel and his Beis Din in Yavna, was they saw what was happening. There was a disappearance. There was a threat to the Masorah. There were heretics who were causing mass assimilation. They were trying to seduce and entice Klal Yisrael to give up on what we know to be true. And they therefore recruited Shmuel HaKatan to be able to institute. Rabbeinu Bar Noach in his commentary on the Rambam points out what else was happening contemporaneously. Those who know history, who was on the scene and his followers were beginning to promote a major corruption, distortion, and new religion. Yeshu, Christianity was on the rise. Rabbeinu Bar Noach writes, who are the minim of Alam Hashinim? Yeshu and his followers. Their impact and influence were beginning to be felt. Something significant needed to be done. Putting in our mouths 3 times a day our hope and our tefillah to give us the language to articulate our wish to be able to oppose and stop their impact. Rabbeinu Bar Noach writes, that is the background to the Amida. The question is, we'll start off tomorrow night, why do we call it Shmona Esrei? If it's 19 brachos, is it just we didn't get the memo? We didn't update to call it the Chasrei brachos? Is there a deeper reason why, even though there are now 19, we still call it Shmona Esrei? We'll pick up with tomorrow night.